truth is, and you said this earlier, no one knows what they're doing.
Yes.
No one has their life figured out and their shiz together. We learned at a very early age that if you work hard, you can do anything.
A lot of people have a lot to say about your journey into motherhood.
Yes.
Especially the clothes that you wear.
When I became pregnant, I saw my belly grow. My baby was growing, and everyone celebrates that. But once the baby comes out, people just want you to like go right back. And I just couldn't even, I just was like, I feel so sad. And I just couldn't stop crying. And I couldn't pinpoint why. But I just had this wave of sadness over me. But when you give birth to a child, it's really a rebirth of you as well. More than anything else, my parents' separation, I'm not a victim from it. Neither is my mom. Neither are any of my siblings. It taught us that we can do anything. Life can throw anything at us and we'll figure it out. This is Arshia. Welcome to Millennial Mind.
New York edition.
Don't forget to comment, subscribe, like, follow.
Basically, all the things you can do, just do them because it will really help us.
Yes.
Bye. Arshia.
Bye.
Welcome to New York's Millennial Mind.
Welcome to New York.
Thank you. I keep banging on about how cold it is here and everyone's like, just shut up because it's sunny. Just get over it.
This weather is so nice for us, right? We're loving this warmer weather.
I mean, it's beautiful, but it's freezing. Like, I am going to go right now to Macy's and buy a jumper because I'm just like wearing like 6 layers and they're all my fiancés. And he's like, when on the way here, he was like, I'm bringing 2 coats. I was like, don't be so dramatic. Don't need to bring 2 coats. And now he's like, you see why I bought it? But I'm so happy to have you here. Aww. I'm so happy to meet you in person.
Same.
And I want to kind of talk about your journey because there's an abundance of makeup influencers right now. Mm-hmm. Everyone is doing it. Mm-hmm. Was it the same when you started?
It actually wasn't. So I started in 2016, officially posting videos on YouTube. And the only reason I started was because I saw there was a few beauty gurus at the time. That's what they were called, beauty gurus. But none of them looked like me. None of them were Indian. None of them were talking about makeup specifically. And I just couldn't relate to the products that a lot of these beauty gurus were talking about because they wouldn't work on my specific skin tone. And so I had worked at MAC prior to that. I had worked at Sephora. And so I knew a little thing or two about beauty. And so I just started sharing videos talking about, and very specific, makeup or for brown skin, lipsticks for brown skin, blushes for brown skin. I would always add that brown skin so that if you look like me, you would find my videos.
I love that. I mean, it's so interesting that you're saying like there was no one like you. Why was there no one like you?
I don't know. There was one content creator, blogger, Farah Dukai. Have you heard of her?
Yes. The one who had that Farsali.
Yes.
Yes, I do remember her.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she was actually the only one, I should say. But she was very DIY skincare.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah,
She'd be like mixing turmeric with honey. Yeah.
So she's very like DIY skincare. Her videos are incredible. But I was very makeup. I love full glam and full, pigmented lipsticks, pigmented eyeshadows. And so I still didn't see anyone that was really talking about girls like me who wanted to wear a full glam of makeup. And so that's kind of the void that I wanted to start filling.
I love that. And did you always think that there was going to be a career out of it?
Absolutely not. And it wasn't actually. When I started, I didn't even think it was a possibility to make money from this at all. I was just doing it because I hated my 9-to-5 job. And this was like my escape. YouTube was my escape. So I started doing this full time in 2016, 2017.
Oh, got it.
But I started posting videos even before that, probably like 2 years even before that, while working my full-time job.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And what were you doing as your job?
So I worked in the fashion industry. I was working in fashion manufacturing. And that's a really tough industry. I'll be very honest. It sucked the soul out of my life, truly. And so it was long hours and I just needed an escape. And YouTube was my escape. I would go home at night, film these YouTube videos. I would barely even edit them. I would just kind of post them as is. Because the only thing I had was Apple. iMovie, yes. And I would just kind of edit, very minimal editing and just post it. And that just became my hobby. And then it became my career.
And how did that happen? Talk to me about that transition.
So the way that I started doing this full time was I started working at Cosmopolitan India for a hot second. I was there for about 6 months. And the reason why I started working at Cosmopolitan India after my fashion job was because they found my YouTube videos. I also had a little blog at the time. And so they kind of just recruited me. And I wanted to leave the fashion industry anyway. And so Cosmo India reached out. I went on the interview and just took the job.
And what was the job?
I was an editor and I was writing about beauty.
Wow.
And fashion and lifestyle and everything in between. And I remember so vividly, I needed an Indian blogger in New York because we wanted to shoot some content in person with Cosmo US. I wanted someone just like last minute. And so I needed someone based in New York and I couldn't find anyone. I just couldn't find anyone. And so that was my light bulb moment. I was like, I need to fill this void. I need to go all in. I'm posting these videos, part-time, just for fun, not really making any money hardly at all. And so why not just go full-time? And so I took this leap of faith and I kid you not, like some magic happened in my life after that. Truly, it was just magic. That was kind of the same time I met my old manager who really kind of made me feel empowered that I was making the right decision. And she said, if you do this, we got you. You got this. You can do this.
Really?
Yeah.
And how old were you at the time?
Gosh, this is like, I can't even do the math now. I was like in my early 20s.
So you didn't have any kids. You weren't married.
No.
You're basically just figuring things out.
Yeah.
And your family, what were their thoughts on this? Because, I mean, from my perspective, telling my parents I wanted to do the podcast, they were like, huh? What?
Yeah.
What do you mean? I'm so confused.
Yeah. Posting videos online.
Like a makeup perspective, they would be like, what? Huh?
Yeah.
And now it's like a bit more popularized. I can be like, look, all of these people are doing this and this is how you do it. But I mean, back then, it really wasn't a common thing.
No, not at all. And so I grew up with a single mom and I told her, I said, I think I'm going to quit this job and just post videos online. And she was like, what? What do you mean? As any Indian mom would. And here's the thing. Our parents, as annoying as it can be sometimes, they're just coming from a place of concern.
For sure.
Right? They just love us and they just want the best for us. And so I had to tell her and reassure her that I got this. I'll make it work. I'll figure it out. And I was making very little money. Like I'm talking very little. Couldn't live off of it at all.
Yes.
But it was still something to show her that, look, I can do this.
Yeah,
I
proof of concept.
That's
what I always tell
exactly.
everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah, like you need proof of concept before you do anything. Doesn't matter if you're making £10 or $10.
Yeah.
You made the $10, right? Someone paid you for that.
Right.
So if someone can pay you 10, someone can pay you 100.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. And so in the back of my mind, I said, you know what? I'm going to just try this out for a few months. If it doesn't work, I'll go get another job. I hate my fashion job anyway. I wasn't really, being an editor is amazing. It's incredible, but it wasn't for me. Like, I'm not a writer. I told him in my interview that I'm not a writer. And so I just went all in and truly magic happened for me.
Explain that to me. What does that mean? Truly magic happened for you?
So that was when I met my old manager, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
And that was just such a random kind of connection as well because I was very small. I didn't have a lot of followers. And so my old manager kind of took a chance on me as well. And so that happened. And I felt like I had kind of like a little team behind me. And so that was the first thing. And then the second thing is there was a lot of conversation starting to happen in the beauty industry about diverse faces in the beauty space. And so I remember meeting brands and being an Indian content creator. Again, there was not that many of us. I think I stood out. I know I stood out. And maybe I was just like a diversity check for brands, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Why not? And so I would have a lot of conversations with brands over lunch and dinner and just meetings in general about they should work with someone like me. It doesn't have to be me, but an Indian girl. And why it's important to showcase their beautiful products on all different skin tones.
Yes.
And so I was having these conversations on the back end, and I truly believe that also kind of propelled me forward in front of these brands. And I started to get more sponsorships. I started to make money slowly but surely. But I will still say in a short amount of time, I would probably like within a year or so, I was making more money than my full-time job.
That is so amazing, because I think when you take that risk, you're just so afraid it's not going to pay off.
Yeah.
Right? And I think for some people it's 6 months, for some people it's a year.
Yeah.
You know, I had kind of a similar kind of experience where I had proof of concept. I really wasn't making money. But then in my first year, I did make more money than my job. And when you think about it like that, you're like, wait, I just had so much more fun.
Yeah.
And I got to do the thing that I love.
Yeah.
And I was okay.
Yeah.
You know? But I want to talk about your management, because I don't know how it works here. What is a management?
So a manager or an agent represents you and handles all of your sponsorships. At least that's how it works for me. So now I have an agent, and I had to learn the difference between a manager and agent. I still don't really know the difference. I'm like, I don't really get it. But my agent now manages all of my paid content. So if a brand reaches out to me and they want me to post, you know, a video on Instagram, a video on TikTok or whatever, my agent will negotiate the rate and the deliverables, meaning where am I posting, how am I posting, the time, all of that.
Okay. And what does a manager do?
Essentially the same thing, but they're also kind of managing your calendar.
Okay.
As in, like, if I have a meeting with a brand, they'll kind of manage that for me. They also think a little bit more, I guess, 360, you as a talent. And so if you want to start your own brand, or if you want to, I don't know, write a book, have merch, they can help you with that. I guess an agent can too. I honestly don't know. I honestly still don't really know the difference. All I know now is I have an agent and I had a manager before.
Okay. And I think some people get confused by that, because do you pay an agent or a manager? Or do they just work on commission?
So it's a commission-based job.
Yes. Okay, yeah. So same in the UK. We have exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a commission-based job.
Yeah.
And they take however much from you, right?
Right.
But, you know, a lot of people get confused around that, because, you know, there is an abundance of agents now, because there weren't so many before.
Yeah.
And you can get stung.
Yep.
Right? Have you had any bad experiences with anyone?
I wouldn't say bad. Like my old manager, they were fantastic. They were amazing. And I think we just parted ways because I just wanted different things that what they were able to offer for me. And so then after that, I went to my agency where I'm still now. And they have been amazing. I tell them every single day that they changed my life. They helped change my life. Truly. Yeah. Truly. They've brought some incredible partners my way. They've helped open amazing doors for me. In between then, I thought that I would get a manager and an agent together. Realized I didn't need that.
Yes.
But I've heard horror stories. I've heard stories from my fellow creators. Yeah. Thankfully, I haven't had to deal with that.
Yeah, because it can get really bad. So you kind of were propelling in your career, right? All of this was happening. When did you meet your husband?
So I met my husband in 2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you met your husband when you were how old?
So I was 21, almost 22.
And you were kind of in the midst of all of this.
Yeah.
Growing.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
And did you think about marriage? Was that something that was always on your mind?
Yeah. I mean, I once I knew he was the one, which I knew pretty early on. Yeah. I knew that I wanted to, marry him. And I always wanted to get married and have kids and have a family of my own. It was just about meeting the right person, and he was definitely the right one.
So you were living with your mom.
Yeah.
And she was a single mom, right?
Yeah.
How was that growing up?
So my parents, I came to America when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
And my dad actually lived in the US, and my siblings and I have 2 older sisters and a younger brother, and my mom lived in India. And so my parents wanted a better life for their family. And so my dad brought us here. But shortly after, and I mean very quickly after, I want to say probably like within 2 months after we moved to America, my parents separated. And my dad left, and just we were on our own. And so it was really hard. I'll be very honest. I have very faint memories of my childhood and that time of our lives in America. But yeah, it was definitely very hard. I remember with my mom growing up, she has done every kind of job you can think of, working in a 99-cent store, making $4 an hour cash, because that's the only job she could get. She would clean people's houses, and she would babysit, and she would travel so far away to just do anything and everything to provide for her family. Yeah. Even my sister dropped out of high school to help provide for us, my older sister. Gosh. Honestly, though, I think back, and of course, it was a rough childhood for sure for a certain amount of time. But overall, I still have really good memories of my childhood in America. I do. Yeah. I really do. I think it made us all of my siblings and my mom feel, we learned at a very early age that if you work hard, you can do anything. I learned that from my mom. Like I said, she had so many other jobs. She would work in cellular store there too. Like so many different jobs she did. Just providing for us. And she taught me that if you work hard, you can do anything.
That is so inspiring.
Yeah.
Did you have any resentment towards your dad growing up?
Gosh, yeah, I did. I still kind of do. I'll be very honest. Because now as a parent.
Yes.
And especially from my husband being a dad, I couldn't imagine just abandoning my kids. And I never talked about this on social media, but he did. And I don't really talk to him. He tries to talk to me now all these years later, but I don't really, it feels like a stranger to me. You know, you abandon your kids no matter how you put it. I'm sure I know my parents had their differences. Yeah. But it's never the children's fault, right? We were his kids. I was 8. My brother was 5 at the time. And so we were little. My sisters were a little bit older, but not by much. And he truly just left us. Yeah. And so I think, yeah, I do have some resentment. I wish him well. Yeah. But I don't need him in my life. I don't want him in my life.
I think it can be really painful, I think, especially when you have your own kids.
Yeah.
Because you put yourself in that person's shoes, right?
Yeah.
And what happened to you, you're like, I could possibly never do that. You know, never. Even as a mother or like when you look at your husband.
Never.
Do you think it's impacted you at all though?
I'll be honest, I never think of myself as a victim from it. No, I don't. I really don't. I don't like to think like that. I don't like to have that mindset. I'm not a victim. Yes, it was hard. There was definitely a point where, you know, truly we didn't even know where we were going to live. We were like literally sleeping in people's couches, all 5 of us. It was rough, you know, for a short period of time. But that being said, we also had angels around us that helped us. And I can like cry talking about this, but truly angels that came into our life that we didn't know. They were like friends of friends of friends of friends that helped us, that gave us space while we learned to stand on our feet in a foreign country. And I think of it just taught me a lot of resilience, honestly. More than anything else, my parents' separation, I'm not a victim from it. Neither is my mom, neither are any of my siblings. It taught us that we can do anything and life can throw anything at us and we'll figure it out. You figure it out. It's hard. It's going to be hard, but you figure it out.
Because I think there'll be a lot of people that are watching or listening to this podcast thinking, you know, I'm in a really difficult situation that wasn't my fault. You know, I didn't do anything to provoke that. I didn't do anything to kind of put myself here. And where do I go from here? Yeah. You know, and I think that resilience piece is so important because I think there's a very fine line between overcoming something and being broken from it.
Yeah.
How do you think you manage that?
I think it's just a mindset thing. I think you have to... It depends on everyone's circumstances, right? But for me, I think I also had a very good role model, my mom, who, as a single mom of 4 with 4 kids in a foreign country, she had no choice but to figure it out. Yeah. And so when things get rough for me now, I always just think like, it's okay, I got this. That doesn't mean that I don't acknowledge that life is hard or that situation might be hard, whatever situation might be. But I always know in the back of my mind, somehow I'll figure it out. I always have that mindset. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, because it's almost that you don't have the answers right now, but you will. Yeah. You know, that's a very growth mindset to have. Very much like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that it will happen and I've just got to like let it be. Yeah. And I think that kind of letting go of the expectation is so brave in all elements of your life, like with your job as well. I don't know what's going to happen from this career, but I'm just going to try. Yeah. And I know that I'll find a way. Yeah. Have you always had that mindset?
I think so. I really do think so. I think that's definitely something in my nature that I had from a young age. You know, again, I remember being like 15 years old and I asked my mom for some allowance and she said, you know, now you can get your working papers, go get a job after school. And I was like, what do you mean? Well, my friends don't have a job. Why do I need to get a job? Yeah. And I was like, no, I don't want to get a job. But she said, if you want to have any sort of allowance after school, go get a job. And I think back to now, it was my mom's way of keeping me out of trouble. She didn't want me to be out and about, hanging out with the wrong crowd in high school, which was very easy to do. And I did that for a long time too. But she wanted me to be busy. So it wasn't necessarily about the money. It was about me being busy.
Yes.
But then I had all these different jobs, from retail, working in a school, working, again, in a fashion company, and all these different jobs that gave me so many other life lessons from a very early age.
I love that. So powerful. So when did you decide that there was no turning back in terms of the beauty career?
So once really I started, I really saw potential when I actually started to gain an audience.
Yes.
And it was all girls that look like me. Like, my audience looks just like me.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
So what are your top tips for somebody right now who wants to grow their audience, who wants to start a page or be a creator? What's the top tips you can give to them?
So the first thing I'll say is just like know your audience. Know who you're trying to attract. For me, like I mentioned, my girl looks just like you and I.
Okay.
You know, and she's a brown girl. She wants beauty tips. She's not necessarily a mom, but she is a brown girl looking to find beauty products that work for her skin tone. So it's very niche. When I first started, I wanted to be everything for everyone. And I learned very quickly that you can't do that. If you really, really want to win in this space, go really niche. Hone in on your audience and just go after them and serve them the best ever, the best way possible. I always like to also think of every piece of content, that not necessarily everything, because sometimes you just want to post something fun, but kind of come from a place of providing value to your audience. So again, I'm talking about makeup here, right? But I do want to help simplify someone's life when they're shopping for makeup. So again, if she looks like me and I use a lipstick and it works for me, she knows she can buy it and it'll work for her. So I'm simplifying her life in that way. So just come and think from a place of service. And this goes across the board, no matter what type of content you create. Cooking videos, fashion videos, anything.
Yes.
Just think of like providing value to people.
And what are your thoughts around like evolving? Because obviously, as we go through different stages of our lives, we share more content around that. So, you know, you were primarily focused on beauty before.
Yeah.
And now you've kind of evolved into like the motherhood space. I mean, you still obviously talk about beauty, but you talk about it a lot from a mom's perspective and share that element of your life. How was that transition for you?
So I think you have to evolve if you want to continue to grow in the creator space, not just from your content perspective, but also from a platform perspective. As you know, there's new platforms popping up all the time.
Yeah.
TikTok is so big now. And for the longest time, I was just like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't get TikTok. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
And now I'm on it. And I still don't get it, you know, but it's a fun platform. It's a different audience. And you have to continue to evolve as new platforms come up. But also just know, like for me, my audience is growing with me. When I first started over 10 years ago, my audience was also, you know, in their young 20s or early 20s.
So true.
And now they've evolved and grown with me. Even my audience that has just found me, they are changing as day by day also. Sorry, that doesn't make sense. But you know what I'm saying?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they followed you when they were young and now you've kind of grown old with them. That sounds so like you're like 500 years old, but I know what you mean. Like you're growing with them. So perhaps the things that you liked when you were younger, you're not going to like right now.
Right.
And so I think that is a really powerful lesson as well. It's just that once you know your audience, then you'll be able to be very specific about the content that you create.
Absolutely.
And it won't feel like you're pivoting.
Yeah.
It will feel just like you're evolving.
100%.
A lot of people have a lot to say about your journey into motherhood.
Yes.
Especially the clothes that you wear. People seem to be very triggered by some of that stuff. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about your first kind of experience in motherhood with your first baby.
So I had my baby girl, Mia, in 2021, and she changed our lives completely. She fully changed my life overnight. It was definitely a harder transition than I expected. Because a lot of people don't realize this as first-time moms. I didn't know. But when you give birth to a child, it's really a rebirth of you as well. You kind of say goodbye to your old life and you enter this new era of your life with a new person that is fully dependent on you. And so I remember my husband and I were like, we want to go to Mexico. We want to take a trip to DR. We want to go to London. We have so much family there.
Yeah.
And we would book a last-minute trip. Didn't even think about it because we had no response. We had our dog.
Yes.
But we would leave him with our family, or we have a daycare for him. Like he was taken care of. But we can be so spontaneous. If we want to go to date night, we can do that. Once you have a baby, all that changes. You know, you really have to think about it. Like now we want to plan a vacation, and there's just so many logistics. There's so many logistics with kids. And so, your life really changes completely. But once you embrace it, it's also the best change ever. Because I don't even remember my life before my kids now. I have 2 kids now.
Really?
Yeah, I don't remember. Like, what did I do with all my time? I had so much time. I would like meal prep, and I'm like, why? I had all this time. Why was I meal prepping?
So funny, because I think that, you know, from somebody who doesn't have kids, in my head, I'm like, you just slot everything in. Like, you just regiment everything. Yeah. And everyone's like, yeah, try doing that when you have kids. Yeah. And I'm like, what do you mean? You just have a schedule and you just stick to the schedule and everything's fine. Yeah. But I heard a lot of people say that, you know, it's really hard as a mother to adjust. Yeah. Did you find that adjustment difficult the first time or not really?
I did. I really did. Because like I said, I was just so, I don't know, I just went from being so spontaneous with every aspect of my life to now having this baby that is fully dependent on me, and I have to arrange a sitter. I have to figure this out. It was during COVID when my daughter was born. And so I was so nervous and had so much anxiety with anyone seeing her, because this is like, you know, still height of COVID, no visitors and all of that. And so it was definitely a tough transition with my first. It was definitely easier, much easier with my second, because now I know what to expect.
Yes.
Right? And so it was much easier for sure.
With your daughter, you mentioned privately to me that you had gone through postpartum depression.
Yeah, so I would say it was postpartum anxiety. And I had it really bad. Oh, for sure. I wouldn't trust anyone with her. I wouldn't trust the doctors with her at the hospital. I wouldn't trust the nurses. I wouldn't trust my husband. I wouldn't trust my mom, my mother-in-law, no one. I just had to be the only one with her. And a lot of new moms do this, where they constantly check on the baby to make sure the baby's breathing. Because when they're so little, they don't really move the babies. They just stay stationed in one area. So I'll always constantly check. And so I just felt very like anxious with anyone even holding her except for me. I also had a lot of, caught me so off guard. But I would just start crying for no reason. Like I remember so vividly sitting in my living room, holding Mia, because again, I didn't want anyone else to hold her. And you really need help. It takes a village to raise a child. You need the help from your husband. You need the help from your parents, whoever can help you. It takes a village. But I remember sitting there in my living room. My mom was there. My husband was there. My sister was on, we had her on speaker because she lives in California. And I'm like bawling, crying. Like just crying. I couldn't stop. I just could not stop crying. And everyone's like, what's wrong, Arshia? Just try to formulate your thoughts. Tell us why you're sad. And I just was like, I feel so sad. And I just couldn't stop crying. And I couldn't pinpoint why. But I just had this wave of sadness over me. I spoke to a therapist through my hospital. I guess they do like a check on you, which I'm really grateful for. And they reassured me that this is all very normal. It's your hormones kind of balancing themselves out. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not quite sure, but that's what they told me. I'm really grateful, though, that it only lasted for about 2 weeks. And then it was like a switch. And I was just like totally fine. You know, not totally fine. I was still overwhelmed as a new mom and still adjusting to the new life. But that wave of intense sadness where I couldn't stop crying for no reason, that period ended.
Why do you think that happens sometimes?
I really think it's like something to do with your hormones and just like the overnight shift of living your life a certain way to now living a different way. Also, if I'm being very honest too, like looking in the mirror and I didn't even recognize myself.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so used to wearing makeup and having my hair done and, you know, whatever. Your body changes so drastically. Even after you give birth, you look pregnant. I looked 5 months pregnant months after I gave birth. And so even adjusting to your new body and like I remember looking at myself and I'm like, who is that? That's not me. And so there's so many changes happening. And then on top of that, you're learning to breastfeed, which is it's a learned skill. It doesn't come easy to everyone. It takes a long time to learn to properly breastfeed. And how do I explain this? So you're learning to breastfeed a baby, right? The baby doesn't just like latch onto you right away. Okay. It takes them. It's a learning thing for you, and it's a learning skill for them as well. So both of you guys are learning. And then they finally latch on, you breastfeed them, you put them down, and then it's time to do it again. And so you get very short windows. That's why the first month is so difficult for new moms if you're breastfeeding. But even if you're not breastfeeding, it's still very difficult. And so all of that compounded, it just makes you sad.
And you're not sleeping.
You're not sleeping.
Not eating properly.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. How can I forget?
Looking after yourself.
Yeah.
And this is so interesting. You're saying, I've never heard anyone talk about breastfeeding as a skill.
Yeah, you learn.
What do you mean by that?
So babies aren't just born. I mean, they are. Okay. Again, I'm not a doctor. This is just my experience with my babies. Yes. Both of my babies.
Yeah.
They have to learn to latch on to breastfeed. You have to learn. There's certain positions you have to put them in. You have to learn how to get them to latch on. It doesn't happen immediately. Your milk doesn't come in immediately. It takes days for your milk to come in.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. See, no one talks about this.
No, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I know there's certain foods you can eat that will, an Indian mom will tell you, eat these certain foods. What are some of those foods that you should eat that you were told?
So I was eating a lot of dal, dal, lentils, a lot of that. Fennel is really good. Oatmeal. And then there's this thing. Why am I drawing a blank? My mom makes this thing.
Is it Rob?
No, it's not Rob. What is it called? Oh my God.
Someone told me Rob was also good. I don't know.
Anyway, she makes this thing.
What does it look like?
What is it called? Why am I blank? This is mom brain. I have mom brain. I will talk and then I just forget what I'm saying.
What is mom brain? Because I hear so many people saying that to me. And I'm like, what does that mean?
It's a real thing. It's a real thing where you just space out. I could be talking and I know exactly what I'm saying, but I just space out. I can't remember what this thing my mom makes. She made me eat this so much. What is it called? It'll come back to me.
Okay, so we'll come back to the foods you should eat. The
mystery food.
Yeah, exactly. If you know in the comments, tell us. I should look at this camera. Yeah. But okay, I also think that you just touched upon a really important point was you didn't recognize yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
Now, you live quite a public life, but what people misunderstand sometimes is you don't share every minute of every day online.
Yeah.
And you're also probably selective about what you choose.
Absolutely.
Right? And so am I.
Yeah.
We cannot share every moment on our lives, and that doesn't make us fake.
No.
But when you're sharing different parts of your life, like beauty, getting ready, and you see comments that are very spiteful. I read some of your comments. You very clearly in a video said, I'm wearing this dress 3 months postpartum.
Yeah.
And I saw someone's comment that said, well, I didn't know you were pregnant again. Congratulations.
Yeah, yeah.
And someone else commented being like, you're an idiot. She said she's 3 months postpartum.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Does that ever want to stop you from posting?
Never. Never.
Really?
Never. Never. So I'll be honest, I would say 99% of my audience is so ride or die for me. And they were so supportive. They were so kind. And they were really appreciative of the journey that I shared of motherhood. Whether they were a mom or not. But then, of course, you have the haters, right? Everyone has haters.
Yes, of course.
And you just learn to tune them out. Does it impact you? Absolutely. 100%. I think that's the worst part of my job. Because I love my job. I love what I do. I'm living my dream. But yeah, the haters, I would be lying if I said that the comments don't impact you, especially when you're still dealing with the postpartum.
Yes.
And you're still kind of learning to live with your new body and you just want to feel good about yourself, right? And so you put on a cute dress and then someone's says something clearly just to get under your skin. It's just come on. You're just being a hater. But that doesn't stop me. I never. I don't even think to ever stop because I would just let them win. That's what they want.
Why do you think there's such an obsession about women looking a certain way after they're pregnant?
I don't know. It's just wild to me because when we're pregnant, And our bellies are clearly growing because we have a human being in there or multiple kids in your belly. Like, what could be more remarkable? You don't understand that until you actually go through with it. When I became pregnant, I saw my belly grow. My baby was growing, and everyone celebrates that. But once the baby comes out, people just want you to like go right back. And it doesn't happen. It definitely didn't happen for me. It's still right now. My jeans are so tight and I'm 6 months postpartum with my son.
But you look amazing, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. But again, your body changes completely. And the same bellies that we celebrate while we're pregnant, we shame them. Like, why aren't you back to your normal weight? Or why do you still look pregnant? And the sad reality is it all comes from other women. It's all from other women. I don't think I've ever had a guy, maybe, I don't know, but I don't think so, say something hateful about my postpartum body.
Because I've heard from a lot of people that I know, it's their close family and friends that say that. Actually, on the contrary, I heard someone say that, someone actually was very tiny after they gave birth because they're just very small built. They have a very small build.
Yeah.
And someone said, you don't even look like you gave birth to a baby. And they were saying it as a compliment. But that person in that moment was, I carried my baby for 9 months.
Yeah.
Like you're just, I know you're trying to make me feel good, but let's just be more mindful about the things that we're saying.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a mum who is struggling right now with her body? She's struggling with her confidence. She doesn't feel like she feels comfortable to wear any of the clothes that she used to.
Yeah. So I would just tell her the same advice that a nurse told me when I was in the hospital with my daughter for the first time. And she was so kind and she was so right. It takes you 9+ months to grow a baby, little by little, right? It's going to take you just as long, if not longer, to go back.
Yes.
But you'll never go back. My body's forever changed. And I'm so okay with that because my body gave birth to 2 human beings. What could be more powerful? Now, do I want to go back to look a certain way? 100% I do, because that's how I feel my best. I also want to be really strong for my kids. So I recently started working out again after giving birth to my son. And the reason why I actually started so quickly, I think it's quickly, I started around 4 months, was because I just felt physically weak, even just like holding him up. Like I would get so tired and out of breath. And so I wanted to feel stronger for my kids. But of course, I want to look good too. I want to feel like you look good, you feel good. It's a simple fact.
Yes, absolutely.
But you have to give yourself time and grace and know that when you're raising young kids, it's really hard to allocate even a minute of your time for yourself. It's so hard. It's so hard. I couldn't do it without the wonderful village that I have. I couldn't be here if it wasn't for my village.
Yeah.
But it takes time. Be patient. And just be kind to yourself. I know it's really easy to say that, but then there are days now where I'm like, oh, I really should have gone to the gym today. I just couldn't for whatever reason. Those are the days where I remind myself, it's okay, Arshia. It's never always going to be up like this. Sometimes progress is like going up and down. And then as long as you're going up.
And I think the thing that you mentioned is you're learning.
You're
learning to be a mom. You're learning how to cope. You're learning how to manage. You're learning how to say no to the $5 million $1 pizzas in New York. Honestly, the key thing you missed out there is how to say no, because how do people eat healthy here? I just don't understand.
I know.
Yesterday, I'll show you the photo. I ate so much for dinner. I looked in the mirror and I looked so pregnant. I was like,
it's a food baby.
So bloated because the food here is so good.
It's so good.
It's very difficult to say no. I want to talk a little bit about how to manage it all. Yeah. This is a common misconception that people have, is that women can have it all.
Yeah.
Do you believe we can?
Yes, actually I do. I think you could. I definitely think you can have it all. I just think, and I think I heard Oprah say this, and I don't know, and maybe I'm misquoting, but I heard someone say this. You can have it all. You just can't have it all at once.
Yes.
So I think that for me, I knew after I gave birth, I wanted to continue working. I love my job. I keep saying this, but I truly have the best job in the world. I never want to give that up, not even for my kids. I want them to see their mom still go and build their careers and live their best selves after giving birth, especially my daughter Mia, but also my son Dave.
Yeah.
It's important for kids to see that. You can't have it all, but just not at once. The other thing I'll say is it takes a lot of help to be able to do it all, as people say, do it all. So no one does it by themselves. It's impossible to do it by yourself. Anyone that you admire on social media, I'll say that, is not doing it by themselves. I'm definitely not.
Yeah. And I think, I think we always look at people online and think they have a perfect life. And I always tell people, we have 5 areas of our life, and I focus my content around these 5 areas, which is your health, your relationships, your career, your hobbies, and your personal development.
Yeah.
And you might look at someone and think, oh my God, they have the best career, but do they have time for their family? Or you have the best family in the world, but do you have time to spend time doing things for you?
Yeah.
Do you have time to do the job that you love? And no one has it all figured out at every point in their lives. There's times in my life where I focus solely on my career and I focus so much less on like my personal development or my hobbies. It's very easy to look at someone and just look at the things that you're lacking.
100%.
Or the things that you want.
100%.
And it's very hard to kind of bring that back and think, well, there's so many areas of my life that I'm so grateful for.
Yeah.
And the point of having it all, some people don't have a choice.
Yeah.
We always seem to ask women this question: how do you manage having a baby with your job? Do you ask someone like that who's surviving? No, you're just like, you have to put food on the table.
Yeah.
But when you presume that someone loves what they do,
you
presume that it's not a necessity. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I went to a dinner last week.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, actually. And someone said, how are you going to do a podcast when you have kids? Because I just got engaged. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? I'm so confused by the question. I was like, I will be here with a massive belly doing a podcast.
Right.
And they were like, yeah, but how are you going to cope? But in order to manage it all, you need to also learn how to say no.
Oh my God, yes.
You need
100%.
to learn to set boundaries and just say, hey, listen, I can't cope right now.
100%.
Do you think that you learn how to set boundaries, or were you taught how to set boundaries?
Oh, I learned that very quickly after having kids. 100%.
After kids?
Yeah, 100%. Because for me, I don't even know if this is the answer to your question, but I would go to events all the time and, at night or whatever. It doesn't matter. Any time of the day. I would travel so much for brand trips, for work. And all that stopped for me after having kids. And I choose to say no. There's constantly something happening in terms of events and such. And I just know that I can't attend everything. And I'm okay with that because my priorities have shifted. When you have kids, at least for me, and I can speak for so many other parents, it's all about your kids. And so for me, now trying to figure out a sitter if my husband also has a work event at night or whatever, there's so many logistics. It's easier for me to just say, I can't come to this event and stay home and be with my kids. I'd rather do that anyway, if I'm being very honest. So I also never feel like I'm missing anything.
Yes. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah. I don't feel like I have FOMO. It's weird. I don't. I went from comparing myself to everybody online, to all these parties and events, to being just so zen and so okay with not being at everything. And I genuinely mean that. I'm not just saying that for this podcast. I genuinely mean that. First of all, I know that I'm not going to be invited to everything. And even if I am, I can't make it to everything because, again, goes back to my priorities have shifted. But also I just know where I'd rather spend my time now, and that's at home with my kids.
I think the element that you just said, you went from comparing yourself to everyone online to then being zen.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that process, because there's a lot of people right now who do compare themselves to people online. They do feel not good enough for not being invited. They do feel that they're not going to be relevant. They're not going to be current if they're not constantly evolving and growing with their career and sacrificing, staying at home or, not getting a sitter. How do they cope with that?
So I'll be honest, and I'll be just speaking for myself. For I still compare myself to people online almost on a daily basis, but I check myself a lot faster, and I'm able to kind of acknowledge my feelings and snap myself back into reality very quickly. Whereas before, especially in what you and I do, but this applies for everyone, but our jobs are so surrounded by numbers.
Yes.
How many followers do you have? What's your engagement rate? What's your conversion rate? How many likes did you get per post? How many comments? It goes on and on and on. What percentage of it? Whatever. It just goes on and on. And so you can so easily, and I did for a long time, fall into the trap of, well, why don't I have this many followers? Or why was I not at this event or this party? Or even as a mom, like, how come I didn't snap back after having a baby and this person did? But the truth is, and you said this earlier, no one knows what they're doing.
Yes.
No one has their life figured out and their shiz together, right? We're all just figuring it out. And it's always Instagram versus reality for every person out there. There's always like the truth behind every post that you see. It's not what you see. And I've learned that over the years. And I just want to say to everyone, like, do not compare yourself to other people because you just don't know what they're going through.
Yeah.
They might be thriving in your eyes. You know, for me, for example, people might think, well, what issues do you have in your life? You have the perfect life.
Yeah.
You don't know what I'm dealing with. You don't know what goes on in my head. Same thing with you. I look at you and I'm just like, oh my gosh, she's this fabulous podcast host. And she has like, oh my God, like her life figured out. But I know you have your struggles too. We all do.
Yeah.
And so you have to just learn to, I think, not ignore the feeling of comparison. Know that it's going to come up. It comes up for everyone.
Yes.
Don't care who you are. All of us deal with this as human beings.
So true.
But just snap yourself back into reality. And what really helps me too is then bringing the focus back on me. It sounds so cliche and I sound like so textbook, I know, but it's truly the technique that has worked for me, and it's a learned technique. It's like to bring myself back to gratitude and my blessings. And like I truly look around at my house and everything that I have, I prayed for, I've wished for. And so that brings me back to reality.
I love that. I also just think that in what we do, it doesn't matter what kind of day you're having, you've got to turn up.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to film, you've got to get up, you've got to post. You know, I have to post every day. And I say I have to. I choose to post every single day.
Yeah.
And I do that because I release a podcast every single week. Yeah. So if I miss one day, then everything goes out of whack. So the schedule I've created for myself is that I have to.
Yeah.
The hardest part sometimes is people have no clue with what you're going through. Yeah. And you cannot share it. No. Because it's not your news to share. No. And you perhaps haven't dealt with it. And therefore, if you share it, you're not sharing it in the right way. Yeah. And that is really, really difficult for me. 100%. Because I sometimes feel that, gosh, I wish I could just tell you what I'm going through. Yeah. And maybe you would just give me a bit of a break. You know, because sometimes when you're reading those negative comments and you're just like, for fuck's sake. But it's truly the hardest thing when you really want to say something as well to share your learning and you can't. I know. There's certain things you just can't talk about. No. And, you know, with time, you kind of come out of your shell. And I'm sure in 5-6 years' time, I'll be able to talk about some of those things. But I think the real message is that you never know what someone's going through. You don't. Regardless of their status or, you know, their car they drive or how many likes they got on their last post or how many laughing fit pictures they have on their Instagram. The things that you value perhaps aren't the things that they value. Yeah. And the things that you see in them are perhaps not the things that they see in themselves. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, if you can today, message someone and just tell them how much you love them. Yeah. But also write down something that you really love about yourself. Oh right? My God. You have to talk to yourself like you are your own best friend. Yes. This also, as you were talking, this reminded me of a story really quick. So for a very long time, probably like a year and a half, I had this person that was hating on me on Instagram, like a hater. She would write, we can curse on this podcast, right? Yeah. Oh my God. She would write like the most vile things over DM. Like, you fucking bitch, go kill yourself. Look at, you know, about my body, about what I'm, anything I would post. Oh, she would always like, every like 2 or 3 days, I would get a DM from her. And it would always make my heart sink when I would see her username. You know, you recognize that name. I never responded. I never even hit accept, but I always read her messages. And it was always just so bad. Like, I would never say that to anyone, ever. Especially someone I don't know, but I would never say that to anyone. And so she did this for a long time, like hater kind of following me. Yeah. And so one day I responded to her and I said, why do you hate me so much? Like, what have I done to offend you? And then I didn't hear back from her for a few days. And I forgot about it. I just sent that message and I just moved on with my life. And she responded to me a few days later and she said,
look, Arshia, I was dealing with a really tough time. And I'm not going to go into the specifics, even though she did. I was shocked to see this message from her. I'm like, why are you telling me this? After literally calling me a bitch and I can't even go into words. I'll have to show you the messages after. But she just was like, I've been dealing with this, tough time. And I just always wanted to message someone that I followed, or like some people that I followed online, and you were just one of them. And so the message here is you just never know what someone's going through. I could have also went back to her and just said something really evil, but I didn't. I just said, why do you hate me? And so when she said that, I just felt so sorry for her. I just felt so sorry. But then every time I would see her message, it would give me so much anxiety. So anyway, the point is, be kind to people. It's good karma for you.
Yes.
It's so much easier than being evil or mean.
Yes.
And you just never know what anyone's dealing with, no matter how perfect their life looks online.
I think when people are being horrible to me, I now try and always think, like, what have they gone through?
Yeah.
And actually, I do think it all stems from insecurity.
Absolutely.
And that they feel so unhappy that they constantly need to keep saying this to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
sometimes you can't understand why. And one of my friends, Africa Brooke, she was telling me about this influencer in COVID. And she had lived this like perfect life. I don't know who it was, by the way, but she had like 10 million followers. She was a mom. She lived this perfect life, but she had a fake account. And one day she just logged in on her normal account, thinking it was her fake account. And she was bashing people, like saying the most homophobic, the most cruel, the most like nasty comments. And, people called her out for it. And instead of saying she got hacked, and instead of lying, she just said,
that was me.
Own it. It was my shadow.
God.
And I have no way to channel it. And this is the way I channel it, because I live such a perfect life with my husband and my kids and online. Like, I have no way to channel who I really am and what I really feel. So when I'm angry or when I'm upset, I just come online and I just do this. And part of me actually like rated her for being honest about it. But part of me just made me realize that so many of us aren't allowed to say how we truly feel.
Yeah.
So many of us aren't allowed to have open conversations. So many of us aren't able to say, hey, listen, I know I don't look my best right now, but I don't care. It's so weird for people, And I think if we have more conversations around, what we truly want rather than what we think society should have, and conversations like these, it allows people to feel safe and open and comfortable to say those things.
Absolutely.
Rather than hating on the people that they see online doing those things.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because often we hate people who do the things that we wish we could. And that's what I spoke about with Adi and Amit. They were like talking about the fact that when people see them online, sometimes posting makeup or being so overtly confident and being so comfortable with being themselves, it sparks an insecurity in them.
Yes.
That makes them think like, why am I not like that?
Yeah.
And instead of processing that and allowing that conversation to happen, you just use your anger and you use hate to overcome it.
And that's so sad, right?
Yeah.
Like any hater, I just know that they're dealing with so much, because why else would you do this?
Yeah.
Think about you like yourself or myself. Like I have, first of all, no time, right? But like also just, that just doesn't cross my mind. I see so much, by the way. We all do.
Yes.
We see so much online that we don't agree with. And I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
I see that on a daily basis. But it doesn't cross my mind to start hating on that person. That's just not what I do. Like, I don't have time for that. It's, again, really just bad karma that will come back to you. It's energy.
Yes.
It's really negative energy that you're putting out into the universe. Like, why?
Yeah, it's so true.
Take that energy and figure out how to overcome whatever you're dealing with. And that's so easier said than done. I just want to kind of acknowledge that. But what's hating on someone going to do for your life?
So true.
That's like a really simple question that any hater should ask.
What's the one thing you tell your daughter if she was struggling with her confidence or struggling with dealing with negative people around her?
So it's so funny because now she's 3. She's like 3 going on 13. It's a very real thing. We do affirmations, actually, believe it or not. I do this all the time with her. And I plan on doing this with my son as well.
Yeah.
I don't do this every day, but like from time to time, I'll have her look in the mirror and tell her that she's beautiful, she's smart, she's independent, she's funny, she's capable. And I really think it works. Like I really think that kids believe it if they hear it from someone that they look up to.
Yes.
But the other day we were at a park and she was so sweet and like broke my heart. She like went up to these two girls to play with them. They were a little bit older than her. Mm-hmm. And one of the girls had like a missing tooth. And so Mia was like, you have a missing tooth. Why is your tooth missing? And the girl just like gave her a look and just walked away. And, Mia was just like she just looked like a little sad. Like they didn't want to play with her. And so I told her, I just was like, it's okay. This happens, no matter what, not everyone's going to like you and that's okay. That's just kind of the first time I dealt with it. But I know it's a conversation that I will always have with her, that no matter how good you are, not everyone's going to like you. And that's okay. You'll find your people. That's how life works.
And before we close, what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Okay, I don't know if this is advice, but this is like the quote I live by. And that is just trusting the timing of your life. Everything comes to you when it's your time. And I live by that.
I love that so much. It's so interesting because I saw a reel or something online and it was saying that if you want to be someone who is manifesting $1 million, do you know what you're going to get first? The pain.
Yeah.
You're going to get the struggle.
Yeah.
You're going to get the constant emails. Mm-hmm. You're going to get the constant no's. You're going to get all the times where you have to be resilient, and you're going to get all the challenges that come with making that $1 million.
Yep.
But so many of us want the $1 million, and we believe that if we manifest it, it's going to come. But what's manifesting is what it's like to attract that. Mm-hmm. Like the person who is making that much money isn't sitting on a beach having fun. I mean, they probably are if they're Bill Gates, like at the end of his life.
Yeah.
What I mean is that so many of us want something, but we don't want the things that come with it.
Yeah.
And so when you're being tested in terms of things are going wrong, things aren't happening, you've got to look at it in a way of there's something greater coming at the end of it for me.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's happened to me so many times in my journey where someone said no to me to be on the podcast and I've just thought, oh my God, this is the end of the world. But now when someone says no to me, I'm always like, no for now.
Yeah.
It will come back.
Yeah.
And I'm not arrogant about it. I'm not like, oh, you'll come running back. I'm just like, I'm not ready to interview yet.
Yeah.
And you're perhaps not ready to be open with me. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's not going to work.
Yep. You have to trust. And I've learned this too. Like I'm working on something now and something is just not working out. I don't want to get into specifics just yet. But like you said, it's okay.
It's okay.
My time will come.
Your time will come.
It's okay.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming all the way here and recording with me. And being so open and being so vulnerable. I think this conversation is going to help so many people.
Thank you, Shivani. Thank you.